chain has changed. The bread and the beer that we consume these days has almost no yeast left in it. And because we use fungicides and we've sterilized the food chain, all these beta-glucans have gone. And our immune system, as a result, is falling down on the job. It's making us more vulnerable than we have ever been before. If, that is, you live in Anaheim or Salt Lake City or London or any one of the great developed cities. Now, in parts of the world where the environment is not as effectively over-sanitized, people are consuming beta-glucans in their diet naturally as a result of contamination, and they live in conditions which would kill you. But because their immune systems are so strong, because of these beta-glucans, they don't get infected. This is in northern Turkey, this is in Kinshasa, and this is in Udaipur, and right behind me there were elephants and bullocks walking past, and the street was a mess. People are preparing, storing, eating their food in these conditions, and they don't get sick because they have strong immune systems. If you tried that, you'd be in hospital the next day. We over-sanitized our environment, folks. We sterilized the food chain, and we turned our kitchens into operating theaters. We made them so clean, we took away the beta-glucans, and as a result, we left ourselves defenseless. What we are effectively doing is putting the beta-glucans back into the food chain. We are restoring normal function, restoring the immune system to the levels that it was always designed to work at. This is what the beta-glucans look like that we're putting into immune. It's a long, long molecule. If it was on this scale, the other end of this molecule would be in New York. Very long, very complex molecule. How does it work? Well, if a bacterium gains entry into your body, the first thing that happens is a couple of chemicals in the body react to it, they bind to it, and they create a complex. And what this does is it attracts the immune cells. So the immune cells come running. This is a macrophage or a neutrophil. And this is what your immune systems look like. Under these conditions, they will do a reasonable job at killing off the bacteria. But they're not that effective. Your defenses are not working as they should be. You are vulnerable, because there is another receptor on these cells which responds specifically to Wellmune, to beta-glucans. And it is only when both receptors are occupied that you get the killing of the bacterium. It is now, in this condition, you're safe. How safe are you? Oh, okay. How safe are you? You are very safe. This is a study that we did with weaponized anthrax. Now, this is something that you won't hear the people at Esther C. or Airborne talking about, because that's crap. That's just smoke and mirrors. This is the real deal. There is only one key to the immune system, and you have it. You have it in this new immune product. And it is so effective. It is so effective. We did this study with weaponized anthrax. You can't do this in an ordinary laboratory. We had to do this in conjunction with the Defense Department of Canada back in 2002. You need very, very special conditions, laboratories, to do this kind of work, because anthrax kills. And you can see here in the graph, the blue line shows that if you give the animals the anthrax bacillum, basically after 5 or 6 days they start dying. They start dying in large numbers. But if you give them a little of the Wellmune beta-glucan at only 2 milligrams per kilogram, which, by the way, is the level of beta-glucan that you have in immune, no deaths at all. Now, I'm not saying that you should be drinking immune to protect you against weaponized anthrax or biological weapons. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm simply using this as an example to show you how incredibly powerful this defense system is. The scientists in the Department of Defense had never seen anything like this. We can't compare this to anything. It's unprecedented. Nothing else works like this. And folks, you now have access to this. This is an FDA phase 2 clinical trial. I'm sorry about the graphs. I'm going to keep the numbers and the science down to a minimum. But there are certain types of surgeries where after surgery there is a high frequency of infection. That's bad news, because it means people are stuck in hospital, people die, lawsuits, all those kinds of problems. And you can see here that as you give these people larger doses of beta-glucans or Wellmune, the incidence of postoperative infection goes down and down and down until when you get to about 1 to 2 milligrams a kilogram, no infections. We're saving lives here in one of the most difficult environments. And let me just say again, nothing else does this. Nothing. Okay, influenza, that's been topical lately. Whether you believe it's here to stay or whether it's going to get worse or not, that's a moot point. But this is another animal model where we were exposing rats to a high dose of influenza virus, and you can see it's a dose high enough to kill all of them. They're all dead by day 9. If you give them beta-glucans, if you give them Wellmune, you save 50% of them. Well, we're not saving all of them. But what that means is, if I were to give this community Wellmune, if you were drinking Wellmune and you're immune and a really bad flu virus came to town, other communities would be devastated. You would be almost entirely safe. And I'm telling you this as an independent scientist. And your families would be safe. And if enough people in your community were taking beta-glucan in immune or in any other form, the virus would not be able to take hold in your community. You could protect entire nations in this way. Again, nothing else will do this. Let me put your feet back on the ground now and talk about just a handful of studies that Wellmune has carried out over the last few years. This is a human cold and flu study. We were studying healthy community-dwelling subjects. The trial was very robust, all the bells and the whistles that you look for, double-blind, placebo-controlled, and they were given either Wellmune, WGP, or placebo for a period of 90 days. And when you look at the results, I'm sorry about all the figures. I'm going to lose the unnecessary stuff. I'm going to simplify this. Basically, what you can see here is that in the Wellmune group, the number of days missed from work or from school was 0. 100% protection, whereas in the placebo group, you had a small but significant number of people who were so ill that they were losing days from work or from school. Wellmune does the trick here. And when you look at the incidence of fever, 3.5 days of fever in the placebo group, 0. 0 in the Wellmune group. Study number 2, lifestyle stress. Here it's 150 subjects, moderate to high lifestyle